Well, Meri, she is the founder of Gardens of the Sun. It's a sustainable jewelry brand based here in Indonesia. And yeah, good to see you, good to hear you. And you will be talking about um, navigating consumption as a sustainable, impact-driven brand, correct?
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, if you have your presentation, you can start sharing your screen. Guys, once again, if you have any questions, you can drop them for Meri in the chat, and then we will later address them, or you can ask them in the end of the presentation.
Thank you so much, Lina.
Yeah. Welcome.
Yeah, so I want to talk about how, as a brand, you work with trying to be sustainable and having an impact. And also, if you want to have more impact, well, you naturally have to sell more. So how can you talk that right, or like make that up to yourself? I think that in the past years, marketing has become, or sustainability has become such a marketing buzzword, and there are so many brands making claims, and not all of these claims are true. And I think many consumers just accept whatever marketing stories are being told without the actual proof. And that's where I think also transparency comes in for any impact-driven brand.
Meri, I want to start with telling about a little bit about the story of your brand. And I think what you're doing is just amazing. You're working with the local communities, you support women, and it's really impressive. So you don't have to be shy today. It's right now your time, so shine on.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe I'll first explain a little bit more about what we do at Gardens of the Sun. So I set up this business a few years ago in Indonesia. I used to work as a sustainability consultant. Also in Indonesia, I worked a lot on deforestation or anti-deforestation, and on making palm oil more responsible, more sustainable, a lot with indigenous communities. And at one point I had a burnout. I think it's just, you want something so bad, but if things don't change that much over a decade, yeah, it was time for me for something new and something more creative. And instead of just working on what was ugly and not going well, I wanted to focus on something that was, that was beautiful. I wanted to bring beautiful things into the world. And so I started making jewelry. And yeah, for me, it was, okay, I'm making all these beautiful things, but I still want to have that impact. I still want to do something good. So for me, making jewelry in ways that not only the final product looks beautiful, but also in how it's produced, that is beautiful. That was something that was very important to me. So I started looking at, okay, how can I justify bringing a product into this world, or bringing more, creating more into this world, in a way where we can also have a positive impact and not just the impact of making something pretty. And so we've been working, we're now working with a group of 24 indigenous women gold miners in Kalimantan, in Indonesian Borneo. And we buy their gold at a premium price. So at the moment, we pay them actually more than the gold price, because what we're doing is completely changing, like we completely set up our own supply chain. So normally what jewelers do is they buy gold and you have no idea where the gold comes from, because it's gold. It's a commodity. It looks exactly the same wherever you buy it. The chemical composition will be virtually the same if you buy 24 karat gold or 18 karat gold. Like there's not going to be a difference. And so we are actually paying more for a commodity. And the reason is because I want to make sure that this commodity doesn't damage the environment, and that we actually support the people involved in mining the gold. So what we've done is we've created a partnership with these women. They're not our employees, but we really said like, look, you're going to mine the gold. We're going to pay you a percentage, like a price that's linked to the actual gold price of that day. And in exchange for giving them a higher price than what they would normally get in their village is that every single one of these women has signed a pledge that they will not use mercury. Also, they're not deforesting. The group is legal. They're only women that work there, and they work, so they basically work in areas that have already been mined for hard rock mining. So that where most of the gold, like the bigger chunks of gold, are already gone, and they're basically mining for the smallest flakes that are still left in the area. And they're not deforesting anything for it, and they're not using mercury. They don't have to, because it's all done by hand. They pan by hand, and in the process, the gold flakes sink from the top to the bottom. And in a single day, maybe they can collect 0.5 gram of gold. Sorry, my daughter didn't want to sleep, which is why I was also a little bit late.
She can join our, and I think it's very inspiring for your daughter to see, listen to your presentation. Thank you. Do you want to more about how do you navigate, because your topic is about navigating the sustainable fashion and navigating consumerism as an impact-driven brand. And I guess because you created your own supply chain and you're paying more for this gold than usually brands pay. So how do you do this? And how do you survive? Because it's a very competitive market, jewelry.
Yeah, like people laugh at me when I tell them I pay more than the gold price for our gold, because on top of what we pay for the gold, we also need to refine it. So we need to send it to the refinery, and then we need to do a lot of testing, and it's all very small. Like it's very small batches. So we need to send it to a refinery. The refinery, actually, normally they will, like the bigger refineries, they will only take minimum amounts of 10 kilograms if you want to get the same gold back, or even 20 kilograms. That's a big investment for a small brand. But we ended up finding a refinery in Jakarta that has promised us that they will only process our gold and not mix it with any other gold. But in the end, we do end up with gold, which is, you know, from the look of it, it's exactly the same as all the other gold. So how do we also tell this to our clients? Because of course it impacts the retail price as well if we pay more for our materials. But yeah, let's bring it back to consumerism. So we know that if we're going to keep this going and to keep having an impact on these women, then at first what we need to do is make sure that they receive a daily income, or that they receive an income. So what we've done is we've made an agreement with them for how much gold we buy each month. And we need to make sure that we keep selling enough gold so that we can buy more gold from them. Because if we do not sell more jewelry, then we're not going to grow the impact of what we're doing. So on the one hand, we have the amount of jewelry that we sell. On the other hand, we have the women that we're already helping, that we've made a commitment to purchase that gold. And then we even have the next step, which is that there are additional villages waiting that would also love to step into a program like this, or even villages that have already set up similar programs of not using mercury, legal gold extraction. And they're looking for buyers who will also buy it at a fair price from them. So we would love to expand our impact. But to do that, we need to also market our product and basically tell people to buy. And I think this is where, for me personally, sometimes it feels hard to tell people to consume more, because of course, gold isn't the only material that goes into our jewelry, and it's not the only supply chain that's involved into producing a piece of jewelry. Yes, at the moment we are still navigating this ourselves, and we're looking into how how can we encourage people to buy, but not for the sake of just buying it? So we're looking also at other ways where we share with clients the impact that they have. So at the moment, we're looking into numbers. So we're looking at, okay, so how much gold do we use for a single ring or for a single piece of jewelry? How much mercury pollution is avoided by a single ring? And how much can we give back from this? How much of this money actually goes to the miners? And how much do we give back, not only in the gold, but also in additional programs? For example, I think for me, to only let the women mine gold and have them do that for the rest of their lives, and also teach it to their kids, that's not sustainable, because gold is a resource that's eventually going to run out. So the villagers, they expect that in another 10 to 15 years, they're not going to be able to get the same amount of gold as they do now. In a few years, over time, it will just get less and less and less until eventually there's no gold left in their village. So we need to also encourage them and their children to come up with alternative livelihoods. So even if we're pushing for gold now, I think that over time, our goal is not to keep supporting these women to keep mining gold, but our long-term goal is to have these women, have a livelihood or be able to support their own livelihood.
Wow, this is so inspiring. Meri, what is the plan for your company, and what kind of support do you need to continue doing and making this impact? Because this is so important what you're doing. So what kind of help do you need, and what kind of resources do you need for that?
That's a great question. I think we need to get everyone else along, because the vision of the business is to not just do this for our business, because I think maybe it's something that is, maybe it's something innovative right now.
Sure.
Sorry, can you still hear me? I had some little fingers pushing the keyboard. Yeah, so it may be that it's innovative what we're doing right now, but in the end, we want the entire industry to move this way and to go for gold that is mercury free and to produce in more responsible ways. Yeah, so I think it's ideally we find ways of incorporating the impact that we have into the cost or into the retail price of the final product.
Do you have any support from the Indonesian government in what you're doing right now?
No, we do get support. So there's a network of women in mining in Indonesia. So we're working with, for example, the UN Development Program, because they're setting up similar, they've set up like similar projects in different villages, not only with indigenous people and not only with women, but just generally getting artisanal miners to not use mercury. Yeah, so we're collaborating a lot to see if we can get more jewelers on board to do something similar.
Mm-hmm. Meri, who are your biggest customers right now? Do you sell around Asia, or are you selling mostly in Europe or in the United States? Who are your biggest customers?
Most of our clients are in the States. And we do also have clients in Europe. In Asia, it's mostly Singapore, Japan, and some in Indonesia. Yeah. And for us, the biggest thing is people coming back. So we get, I think we have like a 37% repeat customer rate at the moment. So around over 1/3 of people who place an order come back. over time.
Thank you. Guys, if you have any questions for Meri, please drop them in the chat. Meri, can you tell us more about your brand and your company and your team? How do you work with your team? Because I know most of them are Indonesian, probably Balinese as well. How did you build your team? Because this is very important as well to support you in what you're doing, especially when you have kids. And so you have to balance your lifestyle as well. And it means that you need to have a very good, solid team to support you.
Yeah, we do have an awesome team, actually. Yeah, I think what we've been doing is hiring as much as possible, all depending on like how involved someone is in the business operations. Is really looking at the hiring for values. So we're really looking at, okay, what do people actually do outside of work? It's a question that we always ask, like, what do you do in your weekends? What do you do in your spare time? Because I would rather have someone who goes out volunteering and enjoys nature. Yeah, I think for me, we really look at, okay, where do our values overlap? And I think with the years, we're getting more and more people who want to join our team because they've heard of, they've heard good things about how we treat our team.
Thank you. This is very cute. I have a few questions because I'm so excited about what you're doing. About this indigenous women that you're working with. How did you find them? How did you identify these sources and how did you approach them? Because it's not an easy process to come in, establish relationships with them and then start working and also make them do this pledge to make sure that they don't use mercury. Can you describe this process a little bit more?
Yeah, so we've, I started, I think, back in 2016 already. I was just asking around. I've been asking around for 2 years, just in my network, like, look, I really want to work with indigenous gold miners. And basically asking everyone, do you know anyone who can help me get in touch with a group of gold miners that I can support to go mercury free? So it took me about 2 years to find an NGO that was actually a local NGO that was working on reducing mercury use and offering alternatives. And yeah, through this NGO, they set up this group. So it's really been more of a collaborative project where we gave them, we let them take the lead. Then we've also been trying to set up our own supply chain for sapphires. So I think about a little over 2 years ago, we visited a village of indigenous sapphire miners, all indigenous Dayak people, and they have a deposit of sapphires in their village, and it's in the forest. And they've basically been finding these stones for the past decades while panning for gold. And they didn't know that they were sapphires and valuable until a couple of years ago. And this I heard just through my network, where someone was like, look, they've been finding sapphires and gemstones. They don't even know what gemstones they are in this village. Do you want to go there and see if you can help them sell the stones or even buy the stones from them? So we went there and I met all the miners. I looked at how they actually mined, and we tried to work out some pricing agreements for this and to set up also a cooperative. But it got too complicated for us with land rights, because if we wanted to work together with them, we need to make sure that they actually have the rights or that they have land tenure, because it's way too much risk that anyone Like anyone rich from Jakarta finds out, and they just they buy the land, or they get a license from the government to mine, and then there's just then yeah, the indigenous people are out. They're basically kicked off their own land, and then it's not that they can no longer mine, but they also lose out on all the benefits that they have from the forest, and farming land that they could use it for as well. So that was one thing that really that was too difficult for us to navigate, especially without proper funding. And the second issue was that we also wanted to get all the stones cut, because I think if you only mine a product, it's usually the profit is really in to the further you go towards the end product, the higher the profit, or like the higher the profit gets. So the miners actually make relatively little money compared to the final retailer of the jewelry. So we were looking at, okay, how can we keep more of this value added in the village, or at least people involved in this village? And we looked at setting up like a cutting center where all the stones could be faceted, and getting people in from abroad, because actually the skills in Indonesia are just not as good as abroad, so that we didn't have to export the stones and then re-import them again. But again, this then COVID came, and it's just too complicated to set this up. So yeah, unfortunately, it's not that we can't make all the big dreams come true. But yeah, there are definitely more ways in which I'd like to like break some more supply chains and set up new ones.
Well, this is really amazing what you're doing. I hope out about what you're doing. We will definitely share, and the aspect that you're educating these villagers as well in the local communities, and giving them an opportunity to actually transform the natural resources into the more and to add more value to what they can produce is really amazing. And I hope we will be able to find somebody who can help you, because this is really really inspiring. Thank you so much, guys. Do you have any questions for Meri? We have a little very important person over there that needs attention from. So I guess we will have to let you go, but you are free to hang out and listen to our presentations, because we have more amazing speakers here. Meri, thank you so much for joining us. It's 9:30 in Bali, and I guess because you have kids. So thank you so much for joining us.